This summer, Prime Video takes you back before Legally Blonde, before law school, and into the world of Elle Woods in high school. Set in 1995, this Gemini vegetarian knows exactly who she is until her family moves from Bel Air to Seattle. Packed with iconic fashion, 90s nostalgia, and a throwback soundtrack, Elle proves one thing. Law school was hard. High school was harder. From the world of Legally Blonde, watch Elle, a new original series only on Prime Video. Watch now.
There's a version of you that already knows the answer, even when your brain is still making charts. Joy spent 3 days and 3 nights trying to logic her way out of a decision that her gut had already made. Leave China, start over, figure it out from there. What followed was not necessarily a straight line. A visa rejection, an isolating marriage, and a moment on the floor of a quiet apartment when something in her finally said enough. In this conversation, Joy shares how she fought her way into this country, out of a relationship that was slowly shrinking her, and into a life built entirely on her own terms.
I was criticized a lot. I was always in trouble. I was in the principal's office a lot. Yeah, so I was a troublemaker because I don't like rules. Not because I don't like rules that don't make sense, because I like it when I can comprehend that this is for the good of something.
You're listening to the Life Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Gilhooly. This show is built around one simple idea, that sometimes a single moment can change how we see everything. Each week, I talk with someone about the moment that shifted their life and how they learned to live differently after it. These are not stories about having it all figured out. They are stories about what it looks like to keep going once the story changes. Thank you for being here. Here's today's story. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Life Shift Podcast. I am here with Joy. Hello, Joy.
Hello, Matt.
Do you live up to your name? Like, your name is Joy,
I've been trying all my life.
No pressure.
No pressure.
I love that. Well, thank you for wanting to be a part of the Life Shift Podcast. I don't know how to describe this other than the way I describe it in every episode. It's just like this experience that I never could have dreamed of for myself, to be able to talk to so many people about such wildly different stories, and at the same time realize how similar we are as humans in the way that we feel about certain things, the way that we approach the fears that we have, all the things that come along with being a human. And it's just been such a refreshing experience over the last 4 years to just be able to talk to people like yourself that I probably never would have bumped into in the world, you know, and now we have this opportunity to have this conversation. So thank you for just wanting to be a part of this.
And it's just to give listeners a sense of comfort. Just know that being a human is not easy. It's not. Nope. But on the other hand, it is actually rather relaxing, because if you have ever gone on journeys, and if anyone, we're jumping straight into something that's completely different. If anyone ever had psychedelic experiences, and it can be really fast. So there are all kinds of different experiences. And that's when I realized the human experience, even though it may seem stressful, it may seem difficult, and you may have all this pressure from all the things that you have to deal with, but still, it's moment by moment. There's still a relaxing element about being a human. But
I've never thought of that. I like that approach. I mean, it makes sense. I think, what comes up in my mind when you say something like that is that I think, had we known that all along growing up, so many of us grow up with these societal expectations of us or rules that we have to follow. And so that creates some kind of pressure on ourselves to like we were joking, you're trying to live up to your name, Joy, there's this pressure to it. And if we had known all along that this is our journey to take, and we can take it and make it however we want to, most of us don't get that luxury right from birth, but some people do. I think we would probably really resonate with the idea of life being this like slow, relaxing type journey.
Just think about when you eat your meals. I mean, you just get to really enjoy it. How lucky is that, right?
Well, I love your perspective. Here I am, like, thinking of all the people that just shove a protein bar in their mouth because they got to run to the next meeting.
Sounds like me.
Like yes. So you're lying to me. No, I think it's a great perspective. I'm curious to see how your life brought you to that? Did you always think that way? Okay, so that's a
Okay.
no.
Yes. And if you know how busy I am, uh,
To
I
hear the
would say
relaxing
it's
life.
relaxing. But really, if you really, really pause to think of it, because I think so many people are trapped in this matrix. Really, this is a matrix we're trapped in. We get to enjoy, and we forget that this is one way of existing. I think people just, of course, I had no idea, because that's all I could see when I was a little kid growing up. Of course, I grew up in China, really groomed to be a little communist. I mean, didn't, which means is atheism, meaning that there's nothing beyond what you cannot see. So it's all about, right? Nothing, no God, no spirit. So that's what I grew up with. So everything I could see, that's all I thought there was. So that's a huge shift and
Yeah.
evolution of my own consciousness.
Well, lucky you in that way. I'm sure there are trials and tribulations along the way, which we'll get into. But before we do that, can you just tell us who you are in 2026? Like, how do you show up in the world? How do you identify these days?
Well, I definitely have this identity of being a doctor, of a healer. So I really resonate with more of a doctor, a scientist, and a healer. There's a big part of me wanting to heal people in a very holistic way, all around, right? Their psychology, their physicality, and their spirituality. So everything wrapped together. I want people to be full and whole and truly have joy, right? And you can't have joy if you're not physically well, psychologically sound, or spiritually connected. So you have to have all three all figured out in a sense to really reach a place that's truly beautiful. So anyhow, so that's the healer aspect of me, that I'm not just a doctor, right? I'm not just about the body. I'm about so much more. And then I evolved from being a doctor. I actually studied psychiatry, no surprise, wanting to encompass everything, right? The brain, thoughts, our emotions. So I went into psychiatry, but then I switched after doing psychiatry for 11 years. I switched into integrative and regenerative medicine, anti-aging medicine, because to me, that's where the real medicine is, which is to look at the body as a very complex whole. And there are many, many levels that we need to address. Even if you're just looking at a single organ, even if you just want to fix your knee, you still need to know what is going on in the rest of your body. So I think the modern medicine, the conventional medicine has forgotten that everything is connected to each other. So I want to be the doctor that respect the complexity of biology. And so I switched into anti-aging medicine and became enamored with stem cell therapy. So stem cells to me is the ultimate intelligence hack. So we're really borrowing the intelligence that made us a long time ago from a single cell to a complex walking universe. That kind of intelligence embedded in that one cell, to harness even just a little portion of it to help our body now to repair and fight diseases and injuries and thrive and become reach a younger state. So that's what I became really passionate about stem cells. And I've been educating the public. I've been educating physicians. I founded an academy. And then I went from being just a physician to an entrepreneur as well, because I saw that if I truly want to make a real difference in the world, I have to reach scale. If I'm just sitting in my clinic here in Los Angeles, seeing patients day in and day out, there's only so many people I can see, right? I have a human capacity. But if I teach 100 or 1,000 doctors and they all go out there and start seeing patients, boy, am I making an impact in the world. So that you have to achieve through entrepreneurship. You can't just sit on, by yourself to try to do it on your own. So then I started not only the academy where I train doctors, but also a stem cell company where I developed stem cell products that now we're shipping to doctors all around the country. And then I also started to develop products for skincare. So now I have all natural skincare product, Chara Omni, so cosmetic company, where we have all natural product infused with stem cells and peptides. So that's pretty exciting because we can do a lot for the outside of our body. What I send to doctors are injectables. So we can help the body heal from the inside out. But then I have products to help it from outside in. So yeah, so that's kind of what I do. I have a podcast and keep trying to educate and connect with people. Yeah.
Wow. So you're slightly busy,
Yeah.
slightly interested in helping others. I mean, that's a tall order that you've created for yourself. And you might be the only person that I've ever heard say that you're enamored with stem cells. So I love that.
I'm
I
in
love
love.
that. So, I mean, if we distill it down, you are a true helper. Like, your goal here is to help people have the best life that they could have, or the best existence, or if we were to distill it. Yeah.
I want to be effective. I've always wanted to be someone that can help, can get some things done, right? I can be really helpful. So that shows that I'm, as an organism existing in this universe, I have some abilities. I can do something. So I love being able to do things. It started with helping my mom with her back pain. So when I was massaging her, I think I was 12 years old, I was massaging her and I was like, I'm feeling this healer inside of me. I think I can make her feel better. So I was like using my energy and sending her my, So that the drive to make things better, to make people suffer less, because I don't like seeing people suffer. Yeah.
Well, you're in the right country for trying to make people suffer less. Good luck.
Okay.
So I'm sure that your journey has brought you here, but even back to 12, you're saying that you were starting to feel these things. Maybe can you paint the picture of who Joy was before the main pivotal moment that we're going to center today around? Because I'm sure that propelled you even more into what you're doing now. But who is the before version?
Yeah. So I mentioned being groomed as a little communist. I was born in the eye of Cultural Revolution, which was between 1966 to 76. So when China was dirt poor. And I grew up in a kind of an intellectual elite environment because I grew up on the best university in China, one of the best, one of the two top universities. So my dad is a professor and my mom teaches high school. So everyone lives on the university campus. So that's my environment. It was all about learning, about, just be the best you can, be civil, be polite. So that's, how I grew up. And I was always very independent minded, which did not fit very well in the Chinese society because they really value conformity. And it's, if you try to stick your head out, then you probably going to get shot. So I was criticized a lot. I was always in trouble. I was in the principal's office a lot. Yeah. So I was a troublemaker because I don't like rules, not because I don't like rules that don't make sense, because I like it when I can comprehend that this is for the good of something. But when it's just somebody's arbitrary rule,
right,
then I think it's then it's not my rule. So if it
so
doesn't,
you weren't scared into submission?
I'll tell you a story I wrote about in my journal. My parents gave up on trying to discipline me because when I was a little kid, they will get so frustrated trying to make me submit. And I had made up my mind that I would rather die than submitting. So they would be hitting me, two of them. One would be holding me down. The other one would be hitting me with a broomstick. I would be in a lot of pain. And they scream. They were like, say you're wrong. And I'll just scream back, not wrong. And then they will hit me more. And they say you're wrong. And I scream back, not wrong. It was a matter of principle to me because I really wasn't afraid of dying. I don't know why I wasn't. So I was like, yeah, go ahead. My spirit is so strong.
Yeah.
I don't know. So,
and you didn't want to exist as someone that you were not, which it seems like if you had to conform, you would have been.
Make it over. It's all right with me. I don't want to exist in a form that's not me. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a lot for a kid to own. It's great. I think there's a greatness to it because, you were, I guess, not allowed to, but you gave yourself permission to be you.
Yeah.
Right? versus?
So in a sense, I freed myself because
Mhm.
my mom wanted to make me a certain way. And I basically just said no. So after years of struggle, my friends were saying your parents are so cool. They don't bother you. They let you do whatever you want. So I asked my mom, I said, hey, my friend said you guys are really cool. She said, we have no choice. No, we just what can we do? So we just let you run wild. So I won.
Yeah. Did that serve you well in the community though, even though you were getting in trouble and those kind of things? Do you think that you were ostracized or any of those pieces that come along with that?
I wasn't the teacher's pet, but I was admired by the teacher's pet. So they were like, how can you do all this stuff?
Yeah.
How can you do whatever you want? And so they were like secretly, like really, yeah, had a lot of respect for my ballsiness. So I just did whatever I wanted.
Yeah. And you're in an environment in which learning was encouraged. Was it like a guarded learning, or were you free
Yeah,
to
there
explore?
were Yeah, we certainly can explore, but I didn't like some of the classes.
Hmm.
I mean, I loved almost all the classes except for the politics one,
Hmm.
and where we were fed
Right.
ideology.
Right.
And it was so boring. It was just like, oh my God, give me a break. And especially at the time when I was in school. So I went into, what was it? 19 so I went into elementary school 1978. My God, that's a long time ago. That's when China was barely just opening up its economy, opening up to private enterprise. I mean, the first, it's okay to sell things on your own. So that's the very beginning. So China as a society was shifting. So it started to be the politics class started to sound like some government soundbite that's not aligned with what's going on in the society, because we were still talking about socialism, communism, and so the rhetorics did not change. But as a society, we started to embrace private enterprise. And it's like, what's going on? Why? Especially in 1983. Okay, so we're letting people do things that we said were not good. They were capitalistic. So there was this huge discrepancy of what's going on in the economy
Yeah.
and what's going on in the classroom. So of course I felt that was hypocrisy. So I didn't like that.
Yeah. But you made it through. You made it through high school and all the things that come along with it there.
Yeah, I made it through. Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't study a whole lot, but I did good.
Okay. So you did enough to get by. And what was
Yeah,
what
I
was
did
your
enough
future going to
to
look
get
like?
to. I was sort of mediocre student. I
Okay.
always finished up my homework really fast, and then I just played, and then I did really well on exams. So I got into the best high school, and then in my high school, that's when I really rebelled. So when I was 13, my mom had cancer. She had a form of, well, it's a form of blood cancer, multiple myeloma. She was hospitalized. So she may be dying. Yeah, this is a very, very virulent disease. So I was confused as a teenager.
Mhm.
And then we had conflicts also. She wasn't very empathetic to me because she was dealing with her own struggles. So I really rebelled. I started not to study at all. I didn't open my textbook at all for a whole semester. Like it
Wow.
was pristine. I did not open it. And I sat in the classroom sideways for the whole semester. I don't know why they let me do that, but I was just trying to talk with my friend behind me. So I was completely out of control, right?
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with hooligans. I was, hanging out with kids that were committing minor petty crimes
Hmm.
or just drinking, smoking, doing things they shouldn't be doing. So for 6 months, I was that bad kid. Yeah. So
And you
I
knew
went,
you were doing things you shouldn't have, but
oh gosh. Oh
continued to do
yeah.
it.
I was
Okay.
proud of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Rebellion. I mean,
Cigarettes. And
I
I
think a lot
was,
of teenagers can no matter where you are, I think a lot of teenagers have that period. Was it only 6 months and then you got yourself
yeah,
together? Okay.
yeah, only 6 months. And my mom was so smart. She's a high school teacher. So she knows about psychology. So she said, Joy, your grades are so bad, because I was at the very bottom of the class. They're so bad. There's no chance for you to get into a good high school. And if you can't get into a good high school, there's no chance you're going to get into college. So if you can't, if we already know, why even bother? Why don't you just go to a trade school? So here I was, this, proud little girl who grew up on the most prestigious university in China, believing one day I'm going to be a college graduate. I'm, going to be somebody. And she was telling me, when I was 14 years old, to go to a trade school. And I was like, hell no. And everyone was saying that, oh, when you're a kid, when a girl is 13, 14, if you fall behind academically, no one catches up. And I said, who said? I'll show them. So that summer, I just took all my textbooks that I never opened. I was like, okay, time to catch up. What did they talk about this whole semester? So I just started reading. So I read the whole book of math. I was like, oh, got it. And I read the whole book of physics. I said, oh my God, that's what they were talking about. So I caught myself up during the summer. And then the next semester, I aced, I did really well in class. And so, yeah, my parents.
Good on your mom for
playing
that little trick.
Later on, I asked her, I said, was that reverse psychology? She said, mm-hmm.
Hey, if it works, it works. She got you back on track. And I'm sure you're grateful for that at the same time.
Very much so. Very much. Yeah.
So how did life continue after that? Did you become more?
So I thrived in high school. I became a student leader. I was organizing activities. And so really coming to recognize my own, capabilities. Yeah. So I had a great time in high school, a lot of friends. And then I went to study actually architecture in a university in Beijing. But at the end of the first semester, I don't know if you recall, but 1989, there was a Tiananmen Square incident where a lot of students lost their lives. There was a huge demonstration. And that was my last year in high school. And of course, that was one of the leading universities in the movement. And so I was very much involved in excited about the whole cause for democracy and all that. But what happened was there was a crackdown on the amount of freedom that people were allowed, because they were allowed a lot of freedom of speech. And then all of a sudden it became too much, and the government probably felt that things were getting out of control. And then all these college students really rebelled, right? We were protesting when we were getting our education for free. So the government was really upset with all these college students. He's like, you ungrateful little bastards, that we gave you all this, and then you want to overthrow us. So what they did is, and also at the time, there was a problem of the brain drain in China. So the best and brightest often choose to leave the country to go to America or Canada. And yeah, so those are the two most popular countries. And so their policy was that if you want to leave, the government will allow you to leave, but only after you've so if you leave, you have to leave before the third year of college. If you can't, then you have to wait until you finish your college and work for 5 years in the government. And then they will give you a passport. They will allow you to, go through the process. So I was first year in college, and architecture was 5 years. So I was going to come to America for graduate school, just do architecture, because I loved architecture. It was so fun because it's so artistic, and also there's engineering, there's sociology, psychology. I mean, it's just putting everything together, right? It's architecture is like is structural art, that requires technology. I mean, it's really great for someone like me with a brain that I like incorporating different things into one cohesive whole. So I love the discipline, but I had to make a decision whether or not I would want to. So either I leave architecture by leaving early, because I cannot apply for scholarships. And there's really barely any scholarships in architecture. You don't get an undergrad scholarship in architecture. You can, though, in basic sciences. So if you choose chemistry, biology, physics, in all those, you can get scholarships for undergrad, but not architecture. So
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So if I wanted to come to America, which had been my goal since I was 15. Okay. So if I wanted to come to America, either I give up architecture and leave early before the third year of college, or I wait until I finish studying architecture, work for 5 years for the government, and then I go to America. So that was a huge decision.
And you'd be what, late 20s if you did that,
Yeah,
right?
29. So that was a watershed moment.
Mm-hmm.
I thought really hard for 3 days and 3 nights whether or not I should leave the country or stay. And I made all kinds of, logical, charts of why I should leave, what's the benefit, and what's the reason, a good reason behind it. And so I thought and thought and thought. So I was trying to use my brain to figure out why. And really in my gut, I just wanted to go. And but I couldn't. And then I overthrew all my justifications, like having adventures. I can have adventures in China, seeing the world. I can see the world while I'm in China. I can read, I can blah, blah. So I was, challenge myself of surviving in China and doing well. It's challenging. It's pretty challenging. So I really overthrew all my reasons. So 3 days and 3 nights of painful thinking using this limited organ. And then I just got so tired of it. I remember telling my friend, I said, I'm done thinking. I don't know why I want to go to America. Okay. I don't know why, but I just want to go. So that's it. So,
I love it.
So that decision was made.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Yeah.
That decision was made, and no more architecture.
Yes. So
was that heart-wrenching though? Like, you're going to this place you wanted to go, but now you're not going to study what you want?
No, I pivoted. So I started spending a lot of time studying English because I had to be really proficient. So I was listening to English all the time. That was my music. So I had my headphone on all the time. I'm just, I need to be immersed in this language. So going from understanding only 30% of what, let's say, Voice of America, that was the only English channel that's really from a foreign source.
Right.
So from understanding only 30%, I think I got to understand about 70% when I came to the US. I remember in the classrooms, I think I was understanding still only 70%, but it got better and better. Of course, now it's 100%, but it had to work my way into that place. But, I was
like not very young. I mean, you were young, but not like young, which is usually when the language is easier to pick up.
That's true. People were always surprised. People thought I grew up in America, but no, I came here when I was 20 years old. So I had to train my brains. I was immersing my brain in the language, and I was doing other things. So I just decided, you know what? Now I'm free. I'm free from architecture. Now I'm just me. I want to develop myself. So I took a German class. I was like, okay, I'll study some German. And then I started reading philosophy. So I started just, doing things to enrich myself in other ways. So because psychologically I checked out of architecture, I still love buildings, but I'm not driven anymore for this profession. But it was not easy to get to the point of being eligible to apply for visa. It took me 18 months to get all the tests, all the reports, and from universities and schools, whatever the college application requires, and all the hoops you have to jump with the Chinese government, with the bureaucracy. It was pretty silly, but I got to the point where I had everything. I had a $10,000 scholarship from the Clark University in Massachusetts. I thought for sure I was coming to America, and my parents went with me, to the American embassy in Beijing. Yeah, that's when there was a shocker. I had never been defeated. I didn't know defeat, but I was defeated by the American embassy. They decided that I didn't care, 18 months of hard work, who cares? You want to come to America? Well, too bad. Why did they reject me? Because I didn't know anyone that they believe is a legitimate, like a sponsor. Because you need an American sponsor to fill out this affidavit of support, basically financially guaranteeing that you're not going to become a burden of the American society.
Got it.
Things go bad. So the only people we knew, my family knew, were my parents' students. And so my mom's student was the one that filled out the form, and the embassy did not believe that that was credible. And they were right on the spot, because it
Right.
was not. It was just for show. I had no intention of relying on this person, not even a single dollar. I was going to just land, find a Chinese restaurant, just go wash dishes, bus tables, whatever it takes, right? I was ready to work, but yeah, but they didn't
But you
care.
got rejected. And to your point, you said that this was like the first defeat on something that you intentionally went for. Because I would beg to differ that maybe some of the things that you chose to do were a little defeatist when you weren't participating in school and those kind of things. But this was something that you tried for and they said
Yeah.
no.
And to be honest, I had a big ego. So I don't anymore, because of my own development as a human,
Right.
my own
Yeah,
pursuit
you were a
of
kid too.
spiritual understanding. So my expanding my own consciousness. But at the time, I was an arrogant little kid. I thought I was the best. If I have a goal, I want to do something. Of course, I'm going to get there because I'm doing it.
Well,
And
and
then
because you had seen success before.
that's
You knew
true.
if you put your mind to it and you get all that affirmation, I mean, like, why wouldn't you think that this is another cakewalk?
Yes. So, but my opponent was the
There's
first,
an
my first,
opponent?
my first opponent was the Chinese apparatus, the Chinese
Okay.
government, to just get through, to get my passport. That was quite a journey. And then my second opponent was the American government. So I was trying to fight my way through these two, that's they were governing. I mean, they were,
Right.
have the stronghold of the path to my destination. And one didn't make it easy. The other one just flatly said no. So yeah, that's chapter 1 in my book,
Yeah.
visa
I,
rejection, chapter 1.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I think there's two ways someone could go. Someone could say, the hell, you're going to say no. I'm going to find a way to go. But there's a lot of people, I think, that would say, okay, I guess I wasn't meant to go. I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
Did you try on both hats, or did you always know you were going to fight?
It was not in my DNA.
Okay.
What happened was that the sharp contrast, because you have to realize I was so pumped up. Because my parents, we were gonna, they don't have much money, but they put all this money in all these different pockets, because there were still pickpockets at the time. Now in China, there's no pickpockets because no one carries any cash anymore. Everything's electronic. At the time, people are carrying cash all over the place. So we were going to go after me getting my visa. We were going to go to the big shopping area, get myself a suitcase, maybe one outfit. And then, I was so ready to just get on the plane. And then instead we all went home together. So it was, yeah, I had never felt defeat like that. And I was actually down. I felt like emotionally down, like some kind of grief, right? And then after 3 days, and I don't know why, my anger just kicked in. I was like, who the hell are they?
You got that 3-day thing too.
Oh yeah, I mean that's it. So not anymore. I'm not gonna feel bad anymore. I'm gonna fight. So why did they reject me? So I was like, why did they reject me? Okay, because I didn't have a good affidavit support. They didn't believe this person. So I just need a good old American, somebody that's believable. That's a real American, not a Chinese student that's living in America.
Fair.
A real American. So how do I find a real American in China? That was 1990. 1991.
Makes it hard.
Yeah, how do I find a real American? That's when I wouldn't call it creative. I just think
resourceful.
I guess. I don't know. To me, all I know is that I just got mad. So what I did was that I figured I had to start somewhere, and there's a phone book. So the phone book has all kinds of things in it, including hotels. So why don't I just start calling all these big hotels where the foreigners are in? So that's a place they're at. So I decided just to call random rooms.
Wow. Well, that's ballsy.
that was ballsy, and it's definitely powered by anger, and that's the tiger spirit, and that's why I named my book Tiger of Beijing, because it's a little on the crazy side, right? Not a lot of people is going to do that, but that force behind, like I will not be able not to do it because that's not in my nature. So I have to let it come through. So then I just started calling random rooms. Most of them are empty.
Right. Right.
But the ones that are not, I have a pickup line. If it's a Chinese person that picked up the phone, I'll just say, hey, you want to learn English? If it's a foreigner that picked up the phone, I would say, hey, you want to learn some Chinese? I mean, it's very simple, right? I just like, whatever.
Yeah. So, trying to get in the door.
So what happened was that I am messing with the fabric of the universe, right? I'm poking at it. I'm making things a little different, because if I'm just sitting there, nothing's going to happen. So I have to make some waves somewhere. So by calling these random places and people, then I started an adventure. So I didn't know what's going to happen, but something better happened. So I talked about it in the book. So I actually met some creeps.
Well, I'm sure. Probably more of those than the regular people.
Yeah, well, interesting. They're Chinese creeps and they're foreign creeps. So, and then eventually I got in touch with a travel agency who has a big suite in the hotel, and they really were impressed with my English, eventually asking me to become a tour guide, to lead a whole group of Americans and Europeans to Tibet. So that was my very first job. I was 20 years old, and it was a 40-day trip where I took them to Chengdu and then to Tibet. We were in Tibet for a whole month, trekked in the Himalayas, and that was a really, really incredible trip. But
talk about adventure.
That was amazing. Yeah.
So you started like this, like you said, kind of creating waves in the universe to hopefully open the actual doors that you want to walk through. Right.
And I thought part of the fun is not knowing what's going to happen.
Well, good for you. A lot of people don't love that feeling.
Oh, really? It's like, you never know. Let's see where this is going to lead. Yeah. So
a lot of people are afraid of that. I mean, it makes sense that you were not, because of how you've described how you grew up. But at least I would say a lot of Americans that I know do not love the idea of, let's see what happens. There's a lot more people that like to know, okay, it might go like this, or it might go like this, or it might go like this. I'm not going to do it because those are all bad. Well, at least in my world, the people I know.
Oh, okay.
So good for you for being that age, and maybe that age I was a little bit more open to it. But I think there's a lot of people that have that fear of like the unknown more so than just sticking to what they know.
It's always going to work out. That's the thing. I mean, it's always going to work out. Yeah.
That's what I learned, but not until I was like 30 something.
Yeah. So, but hey, 8 months after my visa rejection, I landed in San Francisco.
That's amazing. How did you get the approval? Was it because of someone you knew through those jobs, or was it still a little shady?
Yeah, that was a whole other adventure. People had to read my book. I can't tell the whole story.
Okay, fine. So, but maybe you did or didn't know someone, but you got to America and you were able.
Somebody. Yeah.
Okay. And you were able to start intentionally creating the life that you had envisioned, or was this still a adventure for you?
So my book was only about 3 years of my life, starting with my visa rejection to escaping something that's really, really difficult for me, which was an abusive relationship in San Francisco. So basically I overcame two big obstacles. One is to get into America. I mean, that was really difficult. That's probably the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life. Everything else is, compared to that, it's really, downhill from there. But even, doing stem cell therapy, even with the whole FDA, everything, the most difficult thing was, unimaginable at the time,
Right.
At that time in China, there was no way, because all my friends were telling me, Joy, why are you trying? Like, you are trying to do something that's just about impossible. Like, what are you thinking? So it was that difficult. And
because the government intentionally makes it that hard, right? Because they don't want you to leave.
America had very, very strict criteria. Just very few people can actually get a visa. So it was very difficult. Yeah.
So it was more the American side was harder than
Yes,
the Chinese side? Okay.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. I just thought maybe they didn't want you to leave. Like the Chinese side of the structure, they didn't want you to leave to go to America.
That part was hard too, but it's not as hard as the American side. Yeah.
No
So
shock there.
that was the first obstacle. The second obstacle is very psychological, because I think as a young woman, even I think people, even if you're an older woman these days, a lot of times no one teaches you what a pathological relationship could be like. And a lot of people, and maybe even majority of the people, have had relationships that were not good, were with a person with an unhealthy psyche. And then they turned the relationship upside down. It doesn't have to be chaos and drama, but there are people that are so insecure, are so self-centered, that is all about satisfying their own desires, and they don't care about the impact on you. So these are difficult relationships that I don't know the percentage, of people, but it seems like everyone I've talked to have all had one of those. But that's what I was stuck in. And at the time, what made it more difficult was that I had absolutely no support. I was so afraid of telling my parents because I didn't want them to worry. What could they do on the other side of the world? At the time, it was like, over $1 a minute to talk to them. And so I didn't even have money to talk to them. And I don't want them to worry. So I couldn't tell them. And my parents didn't want me to tell people that, I actually married an American. Somehow my mom, so effectively none of my friends knew what's going on. So all my Chinese friends were cut off from me. And my American husband at the time did not want me to have any friends either. He would prefer me to be very isolated and count on only him. So I was extremely isolated. I had nobody to talk to. And my idea of me leaving this relationship would be that I'll become homeless in San Francisco, which is cold. And then,
among other things.
Yeah. And worse, I would be sent back to China. Right. That's a lot worse. So that was what I was facing.
Yeah. That's really challenging too, in the way that you, first of all, I'm sorry that you had to go through that. I'm so happy that we're talking now and you're now out of that, hopefully. Yes, right? Yes. Okay. But hearing the story of you growing up and your fortitude and your energy to learn and get bigger and better and all these things, that must have felt so foreign to you to now be trapped in this situation. It's very
strange.
Yeah.
It is very strange because I couldn't believe it. I mean, this is a really interesting thing about, this is a free country. Anyone can be whatever way they want. Because I met this man who grew up in San Francisco. And San Francisco is one of the most liberal cities in the world, right? And I thought, America, that's where women's rights, the women's movement started. And for sure, not exactly, but they're advanced in seeking liberty and freedom. So in China, we actually had a lot of freedom and equality, dramatic equality, because men and women make exact the same amount of money. And all my friends, the mothers are always the one that's more powerful in the family, because they make the same amount of money and they do all the housework. So they take care of the family. So to me, it seems like the women are always the boss. And so, but this man that I met, who was one of the two most traveled people in the world, who had been to all these different countries, over 100 countries in the world, would have the idea that women's place is at home. Because somehow in his years of traveling, he believed that primitive societies got it all figured out, that they were happier because women were gatherers and the men were hunters. So that's a more ideal system. So he rejected the modern society of what we are right now. So he said that's the root of all evil, that we should just go back to our principles. But on the other hand, I was thinking, but I have all these capabilities, I'm a human being, and I think I can do things. I'm smart. I think I can do a lot of things. I can do most things that men can do, except that, men can lift heavier things and run a little faster. But all the other things I can do as well. I know I can because I've seen it in my school. I can do it. So like, I don't want to limit myself, and I want to do things. So, but he did not want me to do that. He would rather that I stay home and take care of him.
And the fear keeps you in that spot until you have the ability to escape. And I don't mean escape in the literal sense, but maybe it was.
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Did you have another moment where you had to really sit with yourself and think the way you left architecture? Was it a similar approach? Did you have like
I knew I had to plan my escape.
Okay. Yeah. I've talked to other people about very similar things, and it's like one day you just have to.
Yes.
Did you have that? It was just like you had to make the decision and go.
This is what happened to me and my spirit. I'm a strong person, right? You can see I'm a pretty, high spirited person. So a lot of times I'm like, yeah, I'm doing good. But I remember being at home, when he was at work, and I was going to school at the time. I was walking around because he wanted me to do housework. So I was, doing housework. So I was in the middle of doing something. And then in a split second, I was squatting on the floor and sobbing. So there's something I knew it was not right. My soul knew this is very painful. This is the soul dying. And I just started to cry because there was so much pain I was trying to brush off. So yes, the decision was either I let my soul die or I get the hell out.
Yeah. I'm glad you got the hell out.
Yes.
How did you build the life you have now from the ashes, if you will, there, where like you could have succumbed to that experience and just, faded into yourself?
I have to give credit where credit is due. There's something beautiful about America in that there is a spirit of charity. I think maybe that's part of the Christian tradition. I don't know what it is, but to help people who are disadvantaged, because I was probably more disadvantaged than a lot of people, who were supposed to be, the underprivileged, because I had nothing. I had no money. I had no support. I just, but I was Chinese. So there are a lot of scholarships that were designed for people of the, what do you call it? The affirmative action group, the people who were what's the word?
Underrepresented.
Right. So, but I wasn't part of it. East Asians somehow, even though historically we were very much discriminated against, and the Chinese were brought over as slave laborers. I don't know how much better we were than slaves. We were barely better than slaves, but because it had done well academically, so we were excluded from any assistance, right? We were not underrepresented because Berkeley has a lot of Chinese already, because we're just, so eager to do well and work so hard. I mean, if you know how damn hard the Chinese work.
Right.
Anyhow,
even to just get here.
There's a whole other conversation. So I wasn't part of it. I couldn't get help, any kind of break. And what was really difficult was, at the time, I couldn't get even student loans because, when I was married, because this person I was married to made a lot of money, even though he was not giving any to me. So, and he was using finances to control me. So, but then I wasn't eligible to borrow money because he was supposed to pay for it. But of course he wouldn't. Then I'm completely stuck because on paper, I'm not eligible. So eventually, if I wanted to free myself, I have to be completely free from that relationship. But and then I could borrow loans, but I wanted to get some scholarships. And what happened was that in San Francisco State, there was because I decided to go into science, biology, because I love the mystery of life. And then I was, I saw a scholarship office for minorities. So I went to them. I said, hey, can I apply for this scholarship? And they said, we cannot, by law, we cannot tell you that you cannot apply because, we just can't say it. But, you can see, the underrepresented group. And of course, I wasn't part of it. And I said, well, and she said, you know what? We can't tell you not to apply, but just go ahead and apply. So I applied and they gave it to me. And I was shocked and thrilled. And what happened was actually the doctor, Dr. Bayless, bless his heart, he went to bat for me when he was at, I think is NSF, National Science Foundation. No, NIH, I'm sorry, National Institute of Health. So they were questioning him. Why did you give scholarship to her? She's Chinese. She's not underrepresented. And he got so mad that people told me, that not him, but the people in the office said he slammed the table, stood up saying, this is the best student we have and she deserves it. And I have the Constitution behind me. So you do what you want. And they let it be.
You need people to go to bat for you, and because they believe in you.
Yeah. So that's partially of how I got through. Yeah. Because of faith and help and, because of scholarships like that.
Like I said, so many people could fall, rightfully so, in the trap, right? I think a lot of people could get stuck in those relationships for longer than they ever wanted, or maybe forever. And you got out, and then you saw that people cared about you, whether they knew all about you or just a little bit about you. And it's like this trickle effect of like, I'm sure that the snowball started building and gave you the ability to do all these things. And then you just create what you described earlier in the conversation, this big life, this big full life.
Well, it gave me a community. So when I got into a scholarship, then we are a tight-knit group of, these students who are exceptional, right? So we're all together learning new things and taking extra classes, and we're all bonded together. So that gave me like a home. So San Francisco State, became that and did that for me. And then I went to New York to do a fellowship, like a little internship to do research project, and also to follow a doctor to decide maybe to see what medicine is, medicine, science, and make a decision. And when I shadowed this doctor at the Bellevue Hospital, an OBGYN, I just remember one morning, it was that gut feeling of being excited. Because I saw how she was interacting with patients and how, the technology, the science were helping these people. I thought this is just the coolest thing. This is just so fun that you get to utilize all this knowledge and then you help actual people. So one morning I was like, that's it. Because before that, I thought I was going to become a scientist. I was going to become a professor. So my whole trajectory, I thought I wanted to be a professor because my dad was a professor, right. And I love a learning environment. And I always thought I could be a good teacher. What's funny is that now I am that.
Now you are.
I have an academy and I train all these doctors.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that anyhow. But I always thought I was going to be a professor. But then I realized I loved the idea of becoming a doctor. And that's it. So that's when I decided to, apply for medical school. And then I went to UCLA. And so I came to Los Angeles and never left.
Yeah. I mean, and you built such a beautiful life. I mean, from what you've described, I don't want to dig into any other pieces, but you've built this life based on a passion, based on a drive, based on like what Americans we say we dream about, but we don't actually do and implement. Like you did that. And it's so beautiful to see a story come out this way in a, like, I wanted to heal. And I loved how all these things came together. You were already talking about that with architecture, and now here in medicine. And then you realized further in your journey, you wanted to know more. So then you did that for 11 years. And then like all these things that you have built for yourself, when you could have, like a lot of people probably did, when you got that visa rejection, just said, okay, I guess I'm here. And like, it's beautiful just to witness and see.
Yeah, definitely. Despite, I know every country has problems, China has problems, America has problems, but as a country, it does give people tremendous opportunity just for the fact that I could study anything I want. That was not imaginable when I was in China, because we applied for our field. We applied for college when we were finishing high school. And so at 18 years old, you're going to decide what you apply for different departments in one university. So if you don't get into this one, then you go to the next one. And then, so everyone has different, like a cutoff point. So then you end up in one university studying one of the few majors that you thought you may go into. So, but once you're there, that's it. You've made your decision for life. So if you want to change, well, that will be next to moving mountains. I have a friend who got into one of the best universities, Beijing University, and he got into the nuclear department. And then this is a guy who's really creative. He's beautiful. He's an artist. He draws and so, but he's also very smart at sciences. And then when he went to study this nuclear physics, he didn't like it. He didn't care for it. So he wanted to study psychology. But guess what? What does it take to study psychology in China? When you are in a nuclear physics department, you have to have a letter from the psychology department professor, somebody that's, professor there, to have to write a letter, basically a testimonial that you have an extraordinary talent in that field in order for you to even be considered to switch field. So how do you prove that you have extraordinary talent in psychology?
Right. Right.
So he couldn't. It doesn't matter what he wants. Too bad. So, but when I came to America, literally, I can change my major, every other day. You can be whatever you want.
Some people do.
Yeah, that's right. I changed it. When I first came, I studied photojournalism.
Yeah.
And then I decided, okay, I'm going to biology. It's just the amount of freedom. And then the fact that even if you don't have money, there's a system that will give you loans. So thank God there is a system that allow people to survive, right? Of course, you can also work, but you can also borrow. So I think there's a lot to be said.
A lot of opportunity
about the system that really help people to find their way.
Yeah, I think a lot of Americans, we just take it for granted, so we don't even see it. We don't know other way, right? So we're like, oh well, that's just expected that we do these things. But I think when you've lived a different way, and then you come here and you see the opportunities, like you took them. Like you took those opportunities, which like kudos to you for creating this life. And then somewhere in your excess of time, which it doesn't sound like you have, you also wrote a book about these years. Like why did you decide you wanted to do that as well?
I never had an intention of writing a book about my life for sure. But when I was in San Francisco, after I got out of that very difficult relationship and freed myself, and then I was in school and I told somebody, actually a policeman friend, about my story. And he said, oh my God, what a story. Because he's seen everything, right, across the society. He had been a policeman for 30 years. He said, Joy, you've got to write that down. You've got to write a book. And he drilled it into me. You've got to write a book. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to write a book. People need to read my story. So that he drilled into me. So what happened was that I had a chance to take a year off in medical school. So I traveled, I went to Africa. So I did some things, but I also started writing this book. I thought, you know what? I've got some time on my hand. So let me just do this. So that was one of the best times because I was living in a graduate school, student dorm at the time in San Diego. And then, my boyfriend's place. And then I just went to Starbucks every day. I called that my office. I had my little computer and I just started typing away, drinking my little latte. That was the best because I do like creative writing, and to be able to be creative, but telling your own story, that was just so fun. And really, I want to bring people with me. I want them to live as me, be there in Beijing on the streets and smell the streets of Beijing, and go with me to Harbin, where they have the ice festival, or to Chengdu, to Tibet, and to the south and San Francisco. I mean, I wanted them to experience what it's like. So that was super fun. I finished 2/3 of the book really quickly within 5 months. And so it was pretty quick. The problem was I used to write journals. So I have a lot of journals, and I wrote down everything that was going on in my life, including the time that I was having tremendous difficulty in that relationship. So, that was my own secret corner, right? I was writing in Chinese because he couldn't read it. Because I know if I wrote in English, he would have read it. So I wrote everything in Chinese. So that's my own world. So when I was writing the book, the last third, it was more, has a lot to do with the turmoil in that relationship. So I was like, let me jar my memory and, see what happened at that time. So I started reading it. And the more I read it, the more angry I got. I got so upset. And I just I literally said, screw this. I tossed it on the bed. I said, who wants to read this shit?
It was triggering.
Yes,
Yeah.
I was pissed off and I didn't give a damn. Just forget it. So, and 17 years later.
Mm-hmm. I've heard this story a lot too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yeah, lots of writers.
Oh, so 17 years later, I became, more and more known in the stem cell field. So I became, this anti-aging regenerative medicine doctor, pioneering kind of figure. And then there are people who want to help get my name out there more, promote me, like people who are in the marketing world. Right. And I said, I said, I'm not just a regular doctor. I do have a very interesting life story. I came from China, I even wrote a book, but it's not finished. But so I told them a little bit of my life story. And then I remember this person said, wow, oh my God. So when is the book going to be done? Like, when are you going to publish it? When are you gonna? I was like, I don't know. So he was like, so when? Just tell me, when do you think you can finish the book? I said, in 2 months. So there, I said it. So
you must do it.
I must do it. So this time I decided no more journals. I'm not going to touch those journals. I'm just going to, recount from my memory.
Right.
I'm just going to tell the story. After I finish writing it, maybe then I'll take my journal and see if I misrepresented anything, if there's any details that right. will be good to include. So that's how I finished the book. Yeah. So I think it published in 2019.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that. I've heard many people that have taken 15, 20 years to put their book together for similar stories because certain things were too much at the time that they had to put it down and wait till the next thing. But look at you telling the universe, hey, 2 months from now, it's going to be done. And you did it, which is not surprising at all now hearing your story. I'm thinking of this version of you and how busy you are and all the things that you're creating and helping people around the world now in this, kind of butterfly effect, if you will, by helping one person. It's just impacting so many others. With this mentality, is there anything that you would want to tell that Joy that was in the heap crying on the floor that day in your house?
I've gone through several tough times. I think, right. So when I didn't know what direction to go and feeling like a trapped animal. So that was, but then I made up a plan. I knew what I was going to do. So I was going to carry it out. I just had to stay true to it and not deviate. And I did it. I did it. It was not easy, but I did it. But then I tell people, just because you won a battle, right? You came out winner, freed yourself, doesn't mean that you don't have battle scars. So you get traumatized, with different things, different cuts on your body. So even just growing up in China, I told you a little bit about my parents hitting me. Even, my mom, who was a little bit domineering, all those things, the very judgmental culture of Chinese society. There's so much about Chinese culture that's absolutely amazing, but there are also things about Chinese culture that's not so great. The judgmental nature of how you have to measure up to certain things, and then you're always comparing yourself with others. I understand the pressure of doing well is so intense because there are so many of us and there are so few positions. So, I mean, my year of graduating from high school, only 1 out of 7 students get to go to college. And my year was an easy year. And I'm from Beijing. It's an easy city because we're the capital. But from other provinces, it's a lot more difficult. But the year after me was even more. It was 1 out of 13. So you can imagine if everybody wants to go to college, just about everybody, but if only 1 out of 13 can go, don't you think that they're going to judge you and compare you with everybody? So why would they take you, right? You have to be above the vast majority. So understand the intense pressure because of the competition is driving some of this judgmentalness, but nonetheless is not so good for your spirit, right? Because you're always judging yourself. You're always criticizing yourself. So you're not really giving yourself the grace. That's something I have to learn. So I judged myself very harshly, and there were insecurities as a result, to the point where when I got into medical school, just if I'm comparing myself with everybody, medical school is a great place to compare yourself with everybody. We have 150 students of the best from the US, United States, at UCLA. We're like the Harvard of the West Coast. I mean, we're all exceptional students, the same caliber as Harvard. So I started comparing myself with everybody, and I started to feel like nothing because I compared all their strengths against my normalness, right? Some people speak fluent Spanish. I didn't. So I felt bad, like, how come I don't? Some people are great dancers. That's one of the majors or minors, in college. And it's like, well, I don't dance like that. Some people are Olympic athletes. I was like, shit, I didn't get into Olympics. So I started comparing myself. And some people, there are geniuses that don't need to study and they have photographic memory. I don't have photographic memory. So I was like, God, I'm not that smart. So I started to feel like if you start to do all these comparisons, then the next thing you know is that I became nothing. And then if I'm nothing, then why should I exist? Because I have no value. Like that was the psychological trap that I ran into. So that's what I was going to write about in the second book, which is how you can heal yourself, how you can emerge out of your own trap and find true happiness. You can find freedom. I mean, I was free, but I wasn't truly free. Psychologically, I was not free. But in circumstances, I was free. How do you reach happiness and peace? That is a long journey. That's much longer than escaping some abusive relationship. This is a long journey. So that took understanding. You have to be physically well, as I mentioned. You have to understand your psychology and why you react to things you react and how you became the way you are. And then you have to connect spiritually, understand your purpose in life. So that's easy said than done. Any one of those takes work.
Yeah. No, I think it's important. I think it's important to say, and I think that there's always something to learn about something, but also about ourselves and how we can evolve and how we can be better versions of ourselves, however we define that. At least in my opinion, I think there's always an opportunity for me to improve the way that I show up in the world, whether it's for myself or for other people. So I think I take that point. I think we look at these moments of escape, or you get out of something really hard and you're like, wow, that person is so big, brave, bold, all the things. But then we also forget that person is probably has lots of broken pieces that they have to figure out how to put back together. And I think that's what I love about this show is that we kind of try to give the full breadth of it. And it's not just one day I woke up and everything was perfect. Is one day I woke up and I felt a little bit different and I was able to move differently in the world. And because of that, here I am. So I really appreciate you telling your story in this way. I think a lot of people will resonate with your story, even if they don't have the same experience of living in one country and moving to another, but maybe part of that journey is very familiar to them. So if that happens to them and they want to connect and find out more about you, read your book, get into your circle, find you on Instagram or TikTok or wherever you are, like what's the best way to find Joy?
Yeah. So my book is on Amazon, so they can get Tiger of Beijing. But if they want to know a little bit more about me, just my website, my name, joykongmd.com or drjoykong.com. It really it has different segments about everything I do, from my clinic to the stem cell company I founded, to the academy that I have, and the cosmetic company, Char Omni, and my memoir. So everything's there. My podcast, people can find my podcast, the Dr. Joy Kong podcast, everywhere. And then YouTube, I'm, fairly active on YouTube. So all my podcasts and all my, my lectures and my videos where I teach people about different aspects of stem cells, they're all on there. So a lot of doctors and a lot of patients actually have watched everything I have on YouTube, because it's free education, and it's really, it's really helpful stuff. Yeah. And then on Instagram, if they want to connect with me directly, my Instagram handle is Dr._Joy_Kong, Kong. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll definitely link your main website, because it sounds like they can get to a lot of those places from your main website. Mm-hmm. And then I'll link some of the other ones that may not be as direct, because I really encourage people to connect with guests, and especially if their story resonated. It's not so much about, I think it's more for me about the human connection, that they heard your story and now they feel a little bit more connected to the universe, because they're not alone in whatever circumstance they felt or feelings that they had. So I encourage people to find you, and they can use the links that are in the show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. If I can help somebody, I would.
You already did.
Oh,
like, I feel like all of these conversations happen for a reason. We're not trying to teach anyone anything. We're trying to just share our stories and help others feel seen, feel heard, whatever it may be in their journeys that they're trying to figure out on their own, because that's what we're all trying to do here. We're all trying to figure it out. So I really appreciate you, Joy, just wanting to be a part of this, and also just letting me ask the weird questions that I ask.
Yeah, it was a great questions, because I've talked in more detail about what's going on, in my book, some of the details of the journey that I've never gone into that kind of detail. So you got it out of me.
I appreciate that. And I feel like I know you now in so many ways. So I look forward to watching your journey. And I still encourage anyone listening, if anything resonated with you, reach out to me, reach out to Joy. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll be back in a couple days with a brand new episode of The Life Shift. Thanks again, Joy.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for listening to the Life Shift podcast. If you want to learn more, go to www.thelifeshiftpodcast.com. There you can check out all the different episodes. You can check out the blog, some of the reviews for the podcast, and the Life Shift journal. Links are there, so you can purchase your own copy, whether in digital or print format. Thanks again.